Hi, John. How are you? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? States that humans must go through. Saul, the state of Saul, one of the eternal states that we all must go through. Now, there are infinite states, but the eternal states are the ones that we must go through. Infinite states means all things exist. All right, all things exist in us. But the ones that are eternal, they are the ones that are particularly written about in scriptures, described as people in most cases or as places in some cases. So one of them is Saul, and it's actually one of the earliest ones and one of the most important ones. We would find this Saul in both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. And as you have heard, the New Testament is the fulfillment of the Old. So in our lesson today, we're going to look at this story of Saul, who's most of us know the story to be the story of the first king in Israel. But we're going to look at about three things about him. The first is genealogy. And what does that tell us about our state or our nature? The second is his journey in search of something. And then the third is insanity and the passion of David as a result of that insanity. And as I've mentioned to us time and again in this series, the Bible is not secular history. You might think it is. You might still try to wrap your head around it because, well, throughout your life, it seems you've been trained that way. But I would tell you it's not because you've been trained that way, it's because you chose to forget it. Because you chose to forget that you are the one who wrote the biography we call the Bible. That it's your autobiography. It's your biography, it's your autobiography, and you're simply here fulfilling it. But you couldn't fulfill it if you remember, right? I mean, the fulfillment wouldn't be exactly fulfillment. So you forgot. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to play all the parts that you named or labeled in it that you would play. So one of them is Saul. And the first thing I want to look at, like I've said to us, is the generations of Saul. Now, this is from 1 Samuel 9, verses 1 and 2. And this genealogy or generations actually reveals a very important message to us. It starts with, there was a man of Benjamin. Now, this man of Benjamin wasn't Saul that they're talking about here. They're talking about the father of Saul, Kish. There was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zerah, the son of Bechorath, the son of Aphiah, a Benjamite, a man of wealth. And he had a son whose name was Saul, a handsome young man. You know the word, a Benjamite. The Kish was a Benjamite. And that word Benjamite simply means male or man or mankind. So there was a man, and he is mankind. His name was Kish, and Kish literally means to be bent or to lay something as snares, to lay snares. That's what Kish means. And it's very significant. We're going to see shortly. Now, Kish is the son of Abiel, and Abiel literally means God is my father. That's what Abiel means. Born of God, right? God is my father. The son of Zerah, which means to bundle or to narrow or to limit. The son of Bechorath, which means the firstborn. The son of Aphia, which means I will make to breathe, or which is derived from to breathe, to blow a breath. The stories of scriptures are simply repetitive visions, telling us the same message in different forms, so that this truth embodied in a tale can enter in at lowly doors. If the whole thing was said exactly as it is, you probably wouldn't even want to hear or listen or gather where they're talking about it. But it is said in the form of a tale, in the form of a story, and a story after story, vision after vision, revelation after revelation, dream after dream, all of them of the same message, containing the same pattern, but showing up in different forms and figures. So you come back to the beginning, and it says that God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, so that he can have dominion over all things. So he literally wants to give himself to them because he is the creator, and that's the one who could have dominion over his things, right? So he literally is giving himself to this creation he is making. So he's saying, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. And the end goal of that is that they may have the same dominion that we have. And it's Elohim speaking. It is many that are united. And so what did he do? He formed the first man. The first man is a bent man. Okay, he's not a straight man. You don't stand straight, you're bent. And in forming this first man, what did he do? He breathed into this first man. And this is his firstborn. You go back to the book of Luke and find the genealogy of Jesus there. Matthew put it differently. He started from Abraham, which is still the same thing, actually. Still the same thing. Still the same man, the same being, just in different states. But Luke took it further. Luke took it back to Adam. And he said, Seth was the son of Adam, who was the son of God. So we come now to the story of Saul, and we find all these patterns across scriptures in this very one generation. There was a man who was mankind. Let us make man. Mankind is talking about mankind in our image, not male. Okay, it's not like let us make male, because it actually says further, he made them in his own image, male and female. So he's talking about mankind when he says let us make man. He's talking about both male and female, not just male. So for once, forget about male. When we talk about man here, we're talking about you, whether you're male or female, whether you're old or young, no matter who or what you think yourself to be, whatever race you might belong to, you're a man. You have flesh, you have blood, you have spirit in you. And that was his firstborn, Bechorath, which means firstborn. And he breathed into this firstborn. And that's how the Spirit of God dwells in man. Because that word breath that he breathed actually is spirit, means he imparted his spirit into man. And man became a living soul. And that's the same thing we have here. I will make to breathe. Fire. All right? Means I'll make to breathe. But all of this, and we've discussed this last week when we're talking about the serpent, that this was God literally limiting himself, putting himself to the point of limitation, the limit of contraction and opacity. And so he bundled himself. He narrowed himself, and that's 0. The bent man was the narrowness of God, who's the father, Abiel. And this man gave birth to a son whose name is Saul. And Saul simply means the desired. In other words, the outcome, the one that after all this process of putting all this activity of God, or all this genealogy or generations together, the one thing that comes out of it is an individual human being. Call him Jacob, call him Alex, call him Michael, or call her Mary, call her Jane, call her Alice, whatever you might call him or her. That is the output, the desired. That's what the word soul literally means, the desired. This is the one that is sought to be made, the one that is God incarnate. So this is the generation of Saul. And it simply tells us that God put himself into man. It became what we call mankind. And that is his limit. That is how low he can go and still be aware of being. How low he can go. He cannot, his name cannot be lost from him. So he still has to be aware. He still has to know I am. But he may not know that I am God, or I am the Father, or I am the Creator. He may not know that, but he would still know I am. That's the limits we call humanity. Anything below that is not self-aware. Okay? So yes, God created all other things that you see in nature, and they're a part of the eternal garment of the universe, of God, a part of the eternal garment of God, but they are not self-aware. And anyone may want to carry on with the theory that they are self-aware, and that's fine, but it is man who imagines things into being. It is man who can change his own destiny by imagining a different state of being. So the limit of contraction for God is humanity. It's you. And you are the desired one. Now, you might think you're alone. You might think you're just maybe in your little shell and no one cares about you. No one sees you. No one even worries about you. But this is all because you forgot. And we're going to see that. Actually, we're going to see that this is Saul, the desired. But one of the things that happened to him was that he became insane. Total amnesia. We're going to see it shortly. But he forgot. So it's because you forgot. You forgot that you so much loved this being you are now, so much loved it that you took the pain to go through all of these events. Now, of course, it's not like it was painful. No, it wasn't, well, not painful the way we would describe pain on this physical level, right? It was ecstasy, excitement, the thrill of becoming that which you love. You love the state called human, but not just any human. You love the state called the human you are. And then you become one with it. And so you think you were alone, but you weren't. You joined yourself with an ordinary state when it was lifeless to become one with it and make it become alive. You desired it. And another thing you might think, oh, maybe I'm not able to do this imagining well, maybe I can't do persistent assumption. That's all fallacy. That's a lie. Because you desired a state called you, this current you that you are, you loved it so much, and then you persisted in the assumption that you are it until you rid yourself of all the divine glory and became Saul, the child of mankind, the son of man, right? Born of a woman. So he became this. This is God incarnate. It's persistent assumption of you, who is God, that is making you, who is human, have the life you currently have now. Your persistent assumption is putting you here. You've done it from the beginning. You're the creator of the whole thing, and then you created yourself, even though it's a limit, even though it reads you of all your divine glory, you still made it your self-expression. How much more anything you want to create in this world? That is why it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what version of you choose to wear today. You choose to wear the version that is beautiful, well, carry on and wear it. But you choose to wear the version that is delightful, then wear it. You choose to wear the version that is confident, or that is free, or that is in love, or that is happy, or that is satisfied, self-content, or that has freedom, financial freedom, life freedom. Whatever version of you choose to wear, be sure you simply expressing that state we call soul. Whatever version you choose to wear. And so it doesn't matter what version you choose to wear, because the work is still going on deep within you. And it doesn't matter what version you choose to wear, it's not as difficult to wear it if you realize that you once, when you were not even humanity, you once assumed you were. And then you persisted in that assumption and went through all this process. You literally bent yourself from your divine glory, your status of being the most high, right? I've said you are sons of the most high. Okay, so you bent yourself from that status to the status of being mere human. And in doing that, you realizing that you're the son of God, that God is your father, you literally put yourself through the limits. And then you brought about the first bond. And that is this you that you are now. That's the first bond. And you breathe it, life into it. It becomes a living soul. We all see it today. The generation of Saul. And then Saul took a journey. Because what happened? Kish, the father of Saul, lost some asses. And asses actually means perpetual or constant. It means continuous, eternal. Um, so we talk about expansion, right? And especially if you've gone through the Power of Revision book, you would see this in it, that expansion is the very theme of God's creation. This is the only theme you can write a story about, make a movie about, and you don't need tragedy, you don't need satire, you don't need any ill to befall any person before it can actually happen, and it will still make perfect sense and be something delightful. Expansion, perpetuity. I think that's the noun, right? Of perpetual, perpetuity, expansion. That's the one theme that you can use to write a story in this world. And you're writing something that is sensible, relatable, that is completely human, and it doesn't include tragedy. It doesn't include the comedy that's mocks someone for some losses or mocks someone for something that is derogatory, and it still makes perfect sense. And it can be entirely based on love, but this is the one thing you can use to do that. And the father of Saul lost it. That's the theme of God when he chose Zerah to bundle himself, when he chose to limit himself into this form of you that is weak and lowly. It did it because it was mindful that you would expand. If you've watched Matrix, I love that particular movie because especially at the end of it, there's something the Oracle said at the end of the day. When Seraph, when Seraph came to ask her, did you always know that Neo would conquer and restore the worlds? And she said something. She said, I believe. That's literally it. God actually believed you that you would stand on your 2 feet and not bow when you claim that you are God. Not bow your head. not humble yourself in eternity, not bow your head for any circumstance or situation in your life, but raise your head as the creator. He literally believed he would do that. And so he lost that expansion. And you, in this form of Saul, you are to go in search of it. So Kish said to the son, Saul, take one of the servants if he arise, go for the asses. And they went. All right. So now they passed through 5 places. The first place they passed through was Ephraim, which actually means double land. So now we have man is realizing his body and he's also realizing his soul, but he doesn't realize that that soul is the creator. Thinks that soul is something created. It doesn't realize that it didn't start from a beginning and it doesn't have an end. It thinks that it started from a beginning and that maybe it would be ending somewhere. So it forgot that he is God. I never calls this the first tie of God. But this is Saul going through a journey, right? This is you going through a journey in life. There was a time in your life you didn't realize you were God. So you began to ask questions like, who created us? And who created God? And so who created the one who created God? Or things like, where did we come from? Or where are we going to? And in case you don't remember, you asked those questions when you were a child, just look at the children around you today and see how they're asking such kind of questions too. Questions, sometimes you wonder, why would they even think of such a question, right? But it's right within them. They forgot who they are. And then he went and passed through the land of Shalisha, and he didn't find it there also. Didn't find expansion there. But this land of Shalisha is the third. So it means the third. It means divided into three. So now man thinks, well, here I am, body and soul. And the only explanation for me being here is that there is a God outside of me who's doing it, who made me come here, who forced me through it. Well, yes, you're consigned because the state you're in now has no choice but to do your bidding. But it is you who is consigning it. You are the God. There ain't any other. But he thinks there is another who's forcing him through it. And if it does something to displease this other, it's going to be damned. It's going to be condemned. It's going to be punished, especially punished in eternal damnation or something. So you have people telling the story of heaven and hell. They're talking about it every time. They're saying, yes, this is the end of the end of the world. End of the world for what? Because of the earthquake, or because of the famine, or because of this or that. Whereas hundreds of these natural disasters happen every year. Literally every year. They happen. And people think, oh, that's the end of the world. It's not. It's not even near it. The end comes to each one of us individually after we pass through the land of stuff. We're coming there, but this is the land when people think that they have done something offensive or done something against God, an external being, the third, and that is now imposing on their body and soul. So the pandemic came and lots of people think, yes, that's it. It's because of the sin of mankind. It's not because of any sin of mankind, at least not moral sins, not religious sins. It's, well, you could say sin, yes, I would agree, but not that kind of sin, moral or religious. It's spiritual sin. It's mankind's own interest in its own downfall, its continuous dream of negativity that brought about that situation, right? And so that is sin. When we fail to dream the ideal, we're simply sinning. That's all right. But they didn't find expansion there. So they passed through the land of Charlem. And this literally means foxes. Okay, hollow hand, foxes. Now, man tries to find this God who can devise his future, this being outside of himself. Anything it might be. It may be God, it may be anything else. It may be astrology. Maybe the stars are going to tell what the future entails. And then they will tell me what my future is, then I will know what to do. Or maybe the prophets, maybe the seers, maybe the medium, maybe someone who can channel. Maybe those who can channel the fifth dimension, and then they can look and then tell me this is what is in your future. Maybe the ones who can read cards, and then they would say this is what's in the future of our kids. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe those, maybe they can tell. Maybe they can tell what will happen tomorrow. Oh, maybe the sign. Maybe it's the 1111. Maybe that 111 is telling me stay home. Stay home. And then maybe 3232 is saying yes, go left, right. Because if you don't go that way, you're going to miss that opportunity, or you're going to meet some danger. So they go on with all of these signs and symbols, trying to devise, trying to trick into it. Right? Foxes, they're known for their cunning nature. Trying to find if something outside could tell me what is going to happen in the future. One day I was talking with a person and I told, well, a group of people, and I told them, I teach imagination creates reality, period. And he said, do you know this person? He teaches about this, that, and the other. I said, no, I don't. And I don't think what he says there is the same thing as what I say. And I say that imagination creates reality. He's talking about some metaphysical theories I don't know about. And then they said, oh, do you mean that someone can come to you and say they want to know the future? I said, no, if a person doesn't know what they want, I don't have any business with them. You can't decide for yourself what you want in your own life, then I don't have any business with you. Come back to me when you know what you want. Then I'm going to show you how to get it. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. You have to decide how you want to live your life. But I can tell you how you're going to have that life you want to live. So man is trying to see who they can push that responsibility to. Become the fox, not take the responsibility. Push it to something else, someone else. And when they fail tomorrow, they can say, oh, it's the stars. But the prophets told me. You see, they told me in the cards. And then the palmist said it was meant to be. But I thought I saw 1111. I thought I saw the signs. I thought I read it this place. And it says that if this happened, then that should happen. And then all of those things failed him because they're not there. This power of expansion that will break forth through Saul is not there. And then they come through the land of Benjamin. And the land of Benjamin simply means the right hand. So man, having faced disappointment all through the first three stages, then begins to think, okay, so maybe what I would do now is I would find the right people, find the right organization, elect the right president, find the right prime minister, find the right minister of finance. Maybe if I have the right father, only if I have the right mother, only if I have the right kids. Well, most people, for example, want to marry because they're hoping they could find the right partner that will then keep them happy. Thinking if they have the right hand, the right organization to join hands with. So they pass through the land of Benjamin, and that simply means the right hand. But it still didn't find it there. Put all the associations together, and it still fails man. Man thinks this would give him security, that would give him comfort. And you see people moving from one country to another, thinking that they would find greener pastures there. No, if you don't find greener pastures in your consciousness here, you can see it anywhere else in the world. It's not in any country. It's in your consciousness. You have to see it. I'm not saying if you want to travel around the world that you can't. No, but that is you want to travel. It's different from, oh, you have to travel because you can escape a current situation and enter into another situation that you think is preferable, that you think they've prepared heaven for you there. It doesn't exist. And if you've done it, well, you know what I'm saying by they're disappointed, in case you've done it. If you haven't, well, I'm telling you, that's not the power at all. So skip it, forget all about it. So they came to the land of Saul. All right, and this one means honeycomb. So this is the time when man begins to have a flow of results, some material results. It begins to use material means of securing the world's good. Begins to try to trap people psychologically. I remember those days when I would take training on how to answer objections or how to word it right so that people can buy, or how to do this so that you can sell them, how to do that so you can sell them, them, and I did all the sales training. And yes, it's probably bought me one or two money, all right, peanuts change, but it was something at the time. However, that is still not the access that they were looking for. That's still not the expansion that they set out to get. So we go through all these 5 stages of life, all these 5 levels of expansion. All right, they're actually levels of expansion. It becomes wiser on the next level and the next level, but it's not divine wise. His eyes are not open to the things of heaven. He's still seeing the things of this earth. He still thinks it's about getting something in this world. And if any teacher tells you it's not about you getting something in this world, well, they are very deceitful. So I wouldn't say it's not about getting things in this world. I'll just let you know it's more than that. It's about you actually realizing the power that can create, uncreate, and recreate, and realizing that power has been in you all along. And that's the journey of Saul. So we pass through all of this as humankind. Then we reach a certain stage. That stage is the stage we find Saul going into insanity and passing through this insanity to become the risen Lord. So you come to the book of 1 Samuel 16, and it's a very funny story here. And I want you to understand, we're not talking about things that happen historically, right? And I've said that time and again. And I said you'd also always have indications of it in the way the visions are written. In 1 Samuel 16, verses 14 to 16 and 19 to 23, it says, "The Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord tormented him." So where did the evil spirits come from? From the Lord. And we read this last week that God has consigned all men to disobedience, that he might have mercy on all, consigned all to disobedience. So an evil spirit came from the Lord to Saul and tormented him. And Saul's servant said to him, "Behold now, an evil spirit from God is tormenting you. Let our Lord now command your servants who are before you to seek out a man who is skillful in playing the lyre, the harp. And when the evil spirit from the Lord is upon you, will play it and you will be well." So they're saying, "You're mad, king. You're insane." That's what it means. An evil spirit from the Lord tormented him, meaning he's out of his mind. He loses his sanity. "You're mad, king. You're insane. Can we get someone who is skillful with playing the harp so that when the spirit comes to torment you, they can play it and then you'll be relieved?" And he goes, all right, go and look for that man. Who is he? They said, "Well, we found one. His name is a Bethlehemite, is the son of Jesse, and Jesse literally means I am. It means it's the verb to be. It means to exist, to be. I am. To say it's the son of Jesse, is a man of valor, a man of war, prudent in speech, a man of good presence." Hey, David that they're referring to hasn't gone to war before. They said a man of war. He hasn't shown his valor to anyone, but they called him a man of valor. Now, I'm saying this for us to see that it's not historical. It's about the spiritual nature of things. So this David is actually a man of war, a man of valor, because he is Christ. This is who we call Christ in the New Testament. He's called David in the Old Testament. Okay, so they sent for him. Now, Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, "Send me David your son, who's with the sheep." Jesse took an ass laden with bread and a skin of wine and a kid and sent them by David to his son Saul. David his son to Saul. And David came to Saul, entered his service, and Saul loved him greatly, and he became his armor bearer. So David was standing right there with Saul. And this is all within you. So we have this consciousness, this awareness, the father, Saul, but now out of his mind, out of his senses, is creating all the unloving things. But David is there to Christ, his humanity, and he feels the pain of that, and that reminds him where he can create the loving. And he sees it again and he goes, okay, let me create the loving thing now. So he creates the loving thing. But out of his mind, he miscreates. Unconscious, he miscreates. Creating all the forms that you don't like, I don't like, but we create them anyway. We put our attention on them anyway. And then we're reminded, oh no, you can create the loving thing. So we do that, we revise for ourselves, we revise for others. And as we keep doing that, we have David at our service, bearing the armor, patching up what we call that humanity into the ideal, refining it into the ideal. So, and whenever an evil spirit from God was upon Saul, David took the lyre and played it with his hand. Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. So now something happened. Of all the challenges, all the passions that they've gone through, one came in particular, a Goliath. It kept threatening all the beliefs and prejudices of man that he has built from the foundation of an external God, of the responsibility being outside of him, of maybe needing someone else or something else, of maybe something he could get might be the solution to something he wants. They now challenge him. They keep challenging day and night. And then Saul now made a promise. He said, whoever can take down this challenger of Israel, I'm going to free his father. Okay? Whoever is able to take down this man, I'm going to free his father. So David was the one who went and he took down the man. And after he did, like I've said, this story is not historical. It's not something of a chronology. So when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Abner, whose son is this youth? Well, was it not Saul who just wrote to the father and said, send me your son David? But he's now asking, whose son is this youth? And he asked again, whose son is this stripling? And when David returned, then Saul said to him, whose son are you, young man? Which is all to tell us it's about the promise. It's about your humanity, you learning to adore it. And stop thinking there is a God outside of you. But begin to become aware that you are God. And William Blake puts it this way. He said, you are a man. God is no more. Your own humanity, learn to adore. Okay? So David did that. That's the humanity. That's your humanity. And then he adored himself. And in so doing, he freed his father. And you are the father of David. Bound in captivity, that spirit of the father, bound in captivity, bound to this body, thinks himself to be human all the way. And so the king was insane. He had mental amnesia, he forgot who he was. And as he began to experience his humanity and to adore that through David, he begins to ask the question, whose son are you? Then David said, well, I'm the son of Jesse, your servant. And so it became the reason, Lord. We went from Saul, that we know in this whole passage, who died just like that, to Paul, the one who has had the visions of heaven. And all of us are going to have that vision. It's coming for each one of us. But while it is coming, you can still use your Christ, the power that you have within. You can use that to imagine anything you want in this world. And as you imagine it, you're bringing it about. Things are happening. But what you're doing most of all, as you're revising especially, what you're doing most of all is that you are learning to adore your humanity. You're not trying to seek an escape into a world after this world. There isn't. If you think, oh, by death I could escape the agonies of this world, no. You restore to a world just like this, carrying on with the drama, until you learn to adore your humanity. If you think, oh, I'll get the rewards in heaven, I can suffer all the sufferings on earth, then you're simply ignoring or abandoning the responsibility to actually imagine the loving thing for yourself and for others. There is no heaven anywhere except the one you make in your consciousness. So learn to adore your humanity. For that is what would go with you when this soul is dead. That's what would go with the father. The father would be freed by the king. The king would die, and then the father and the son would know one another. And you would be the father, you would know your son. Your humanity is what you've been carrying in your womb, in the tomb of your skull all the way, and that you've now birthed it. And it would call you father, you would know you are God. So I know many of us have heard Neville describe this in his own visions. For those of us who have also seen it with Blake, we know it is true if you've read it in Blake's visions. And we've just seen it being described here in scriptures also. It's the same story. And it's going to happen to you, it's going to happen to me, it's going to happen to everyone. I haven't particularly had this vision of David, but I've had enough of visions from scriptures to know it is true what Neville says, and to know it is coming for each one of us. So I'm encouraging you to hold on to the faith, which means while it is unfolding, use your imagination. Resolve these things in your life. Imagine responsibly. Imagine wisely. Imagine lovingly. Exercise this Christ who is the power and the wisdom of God. And don't go and fall through or stay in any of those 5 wastelands, because they are wastelands. They are not Canaan. They're not Israel. They're not the promised land. They're wastelands. So don't stay in them when you can be revising, when you can be imagining. And that's our lesson today. So we're going to be meeting next week to continue with the last, would actually be covering the last of the series for this time next week. After which there will be a break for a month, for the month of May. And then in June, we're going to resume our Sunday lecture series. But everyone, I'm inviting you all to the May group class, to the May class, which is acceptance, manifest with acceptance. All right. And it's 21 days of imagination exercise. I know that many of us here are already excited to take the quiz this later today, which is coming in about 4 or 5 hours. Okay. And to take the quiz, 6 p.m. sharp, my time. And then the first person to submit the answers correctly on the form, that person is winning a free a scholarship. I'll call it a scholarship, right? A scholarship for the month's coaching. And then I would invite or enjoy every one of us to register for this May's class, Manifest with Acceptance. So we meet then. But until then, have a wonderful time yourself, and bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.